Why?
You're gluten-free.
Oh. This is gluten-free, right? Because I'm gluten intolerant.
I forgot you're gluten-free.
I mean, are we gluten-free this week? Yes, we're
gluten-free.
Imagine this. You're in Italy, enjoying pasta and pastries like nobody's business. No bloating, no tummy ache, just pure carb-tastic bliss. Sounds like a dream, right? But for some people back in the US with gluten issues, that dream is a daily nightmare. What if the issue isn't just gluten? What if it's about the type of gluten we're eating? Today we're exploring the fascinating realm of gluten, its unexpected rise in intolerance in America, and why some people can eat gluten in Europe but not in the US. In this video, we'll crack the gluten code, explore why it's causing so much trouble in the US, and compare it to its chill European cousin. We'll get the inside scoop from scientists, hear real-life stories from people affected, and dig up the latest research to shed light on this whole puzzling situation. So if you've ever wondered why a simple slice of bread can turn into a battlefield in your stomach, this video is your front row seat to the answer. Get ready for a journey through gluten's weird and wonderful world. Now that we've set the stage, let's dive deeper into the nature of gluten, its presence in various foods, and its role in our diet. Gluten's like the glue, holding these grains together, making your bread fluffy and pizza dough stretchy. It's in wheat and rye and barley and even a fancy wheat-rye hybrid called triticale. But wait, there's more. Wheat berries, spelt, kamut, farro, even einkorn, all hiding gluten. Now before you swear off bread forever, remember, for most people, gluten's not the enemy. Whole grains packed with antioxidants and fiber are actually good for you. It's the processed stuff. Crackers, chips, sugary cereals, that turns wheat from friend to foe. They zap out the good stuff and leave you with an empty carb pile. With that cleared up, let's dig into the real mystery. Why is everyone in America suddenly gluten frenzied? What's behind this rise in intolerance and celiac disease? So, gluten's blowing up in America, like 1 in 133 people have celiac disease, and way more have gluten sensitivity. That's like 6% of the population. Crazy, right? But here's the twist. A ton of people might not even know they have it. But let's not get lost in the stats. Let's hear from real people who've grappled with gluten, like Mary, who used to get mega bloated and had heartburn after eating bread. Turns out celiac disease. After going gluten-free, she felt like a new person. Or Kate, who thought she had IBS for years, but gluten was the real culprit. She ditched gluten and started feeling better in days. And then there's Megan. After 2 years of bouncing from doctor to doctor, they finally cracked the case, an autoimmune disease. Turns out gluten was sending her body into a full-blown meltdown. But the good news? Ditching gluten calmed the storm inside her. And finally, there's Julie and her daughter, who both had celiac disease, but it took 6 years to get the right diagnosis for both of them. So what's the deal? Why is America suddenly having a love-hate relationship with bread? There could be a ton of factors behind this, but here are some common ones. Turns out we've gotten better at finding gluten troublemakers. New tests and more awareness mean more people are getting correctly diagnosed. It's like finding the missing puzzle piece to your health woes. With these personal stories and facts in mind, it's time to address some common misconceptions and controversies surrounding gluten intolerance and celiac disease. Before you toss your breadbasket out the window, let's clear the air about some common misconceptions about gluten. Myth number 1. Gluten-free is healthier for everyone. This one's tricky. For people with celiac or gluten sensitivity, ditching gluten is like giving your body a high five, but for the rest, it's not a magic shortcut to six-pack abs. The real hero is a balanced diet, gluten or no gluten. Think fruits, veggies, whole grains, the good stuff. Myth number 2. Gluten intolerance is just a wimpy version of celiac disease. Nope. Celiac is like your immune system having a meltdown over gluten, attacking your small intestine like a tiny army. Gluten intolerance, on the other hand, is like a tummy rumble after eating a slice of pizza. No big drama, just a digestive disagreement. Myth number 3. Symptoms tell the whole story. Not always. Some celiac folks might be symptom-free ninjas.
Wish we were ninjas.
While gluten intolerance can cause major tummy grumbles even if there's no intestinal damage. It's like a mystery novel. The clues might not always point to the right culprit. Okay, now that we've debunked those myths, let's zoom in on the real head-scratcher. Why does America freak out over gluten way more than Europe? The debate about gluten sensitivity in America versus Europe is a hot topic, especially for those who suffer from gluten sensitivity or celiac disease. This discussion is fueled by personal stories of people who have gluten sensitivity in the US but don't experience the same problems when they eat wheat in Europe. This debate has sparked many discussions and controversies, especially on social media and online forums. People have shared their personal experiences with gluten sensitivity, stating that they or their loved ones have fewer or no problems when eating foods containing gluten in Europe compared to the US. For example, a HuffPost article explores the experiences of people who can say they can eat bread and pasta without problems when they travel abroad. Similarly, threads in Reddit contain many stories from individuals who have had different experiences while eating gluten products in Europe compared to the US. An article on the IBS Treatment Center's website also discusses this phenomenon, with the authors sharing their personal experience of living in Europe for a year before discovering their gluten intolerance. The author talks about frequently feeling tired and sick, which they attribute to gluten consumption. A post on the celiac.com forum titled "Gluten-Free in Europe" discusses the experiences of individuals with celiac disease traveling in Europe. Some users reported no issues with consuming gluten in Europe, while others experienced adverse reactions. And there is a podcast episode titled "Returning from Europe with Gluten Intolerance: What is up with our food supply?" on Travel Fuels Life that discusses the host's personal experience with gluten intolerance after returning from Europe. So what's going on? Is there any difference or not? Seems like we got caught up in a maze. The belief that wheat and the gluten protein in wheat is a genetically modified organism, GMO, causing some differences doesn't hold water either. According to the National Celiac Association and the Non-GMO Project, wheat is not commercially available as a GMO product in the US or Europe. And guess what? Both the US and Europe import wheat, meaning there's a chance you're eating products made from the same type of wheat no matter where you are. The US versus Europe gluten rumble is heating up and the experts are chiming in. Let's break down their takes on who's the gluten bad guy. Interestingly, a 2022 study in Current Developments in Nutrition compared gluten-free labeling accuracy across Europe, the Middle East, and the US. Their findings revealed higher compliance with the greater than 20 ppm gluten limit in Europe and the Middle East. This suggests potentially stricter regulations and labeling practices in these regions. Overall, the debate on US versus EU gluten intolerance remains multifaceted. While the evidence for significant regional differences in gluten content itself is inconclusive, diverse factors like wheat varieties, processing methods, individual sensitivities, and evil labeling practices likely contribute to the observed variations in experiences. Further research is crucial to fully understand the complex interplay of these factors and their influence on gluten intolerance across different regions. While the gluten debate heats up, the gluten-free label is everywhere, popping up on menus and grocery shelves, even for folks without diagnosed gluten woes. What's driving this craze? Well, some see it as a golden ticket to weight loss or a wellness boost. Even if they don't have a gluten sensitivity, the buzz is loud, but the science is still muffled. Ditching gluten without reason can actually rob you of vital nutrients like fiber and vitamins found in grains. So the bottom line? For those with celiac disease or other gluten-related conditions, a gluten-free diet is a lifesaver. But for everyone else, it's important to think twice before diving in headfirst. It's no shortcut to health, and it can be a pricey and sometimes tricky path to follow. The American gluten puzzle is no simple case of yes or no. It turns out the gluten story is more like a juicy thriller with twists and turns. How the grain is grown, processed, and even where you eat it all play a role. That's why some folks who struggle with gluten in America can munch on bread in Europe without a hitch. It's a puzzle with many pieces, different wheat types, processing methods, personal sensitivities, and even confusing labels. But this isn't the end of the story. Thank you for joining us on this gluten adventure. We hope you learned something new and realized it's not a simple good versus bad situation. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with others. Remember that knowledge is power. The more we understand about our bodies and the food we eat, the better choices we can make for our health. So hit that subscribe button and stay curious. We'll keep exploring the mysteries of health and wellness one delicious bite at a time.